Hello and welcome to A Course in Miracles 365. I'm your host, Tomas Garza, and as always, thank you for joining me here today on Enlightened World Network. And I'm excited for a couple of things here on this live stream today. Number one, and as always, I'm excited to talk about the daily lesson in the workbook for students. Today, that's lesson 24. But I'm also happy to announce that tomorrow I will have a guest joining me. All right. I will have a guest joining me, the first, or actually the second of many. As you may have seen, my wife, Cindy Garza, came and talked about her experience with A Course in Miracles and how it has transformed her world, her life. And absolutely, I can attest to this. It has utterly remade her and the way she shows up in the world. So she talked about this in a previous live stream. Tomorrow, Kim Coles-Venter is joining me from Atlanta, Georgia. Now, Kim has had a lot of experience as a course student and is going to talk about how this has impacted her and her life. And I'm going to briefly interview her on the live stream. So that's tomorrow. Today's workbook lesson 24. Tomorrow, Kim will be joining me, and as always, and I have to laugh at this because it is funny, the workbook will be there on Saturday. Workbook lesson 25 will happily and kindly and gracefully wait for us. And we can take a day here and there. And that is my plan, by the way, with this stream, is to share some conversations with people that have had their own experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the beautiful, the not so beautiful. All of that is to showcase the change that can come from practicing these workbook lessons, reading this text. It has absolutely been beautiful in my life. It's been beautiful in Cindy's life and in Kim's and anyone else that this touches. And I hope that you are finding that to be the case in your life as well. Now, as always, please share out this post to your friends because we want to not only promote A Course in Miracles, but we want to promote Enlightened World Network. It's a fabulous, fabulous forum for these types of conversations. And yeah, sharing that with the world is a beautiful thing that we can do. And all it takes is just clicking the share button. So thank you for sharing all of the posts and for your comments as well, because as you know, I love to answer questions both here on the live stream and later on during the replay. So let's delve into another heavy hitter, shall we? And I love that this is such a deep subject matter. Letting go of our erroneous perceptions of the world, of ourselves, and everyone in it, everything, it would be great, wouldn't it, if it were super easy and we could just snap our fingers and we would all be fully enlightened. Yeah, blissfully loving, knowing nothing else. No more struggle, no more worry. Yeah, wouldn't that be lovely if we could just snap our fingers? Well, as we see in A Course in Miracles, real transformation can, in fact, happen in a single instant. However, we have to prepare for that. We have to ready ourselves for that by starting with the premise that the way we see things is backwards. We have to first acknowledge that before we do anything else. It's like any kind of an issue, any kind of a challenge, or if you want to use the word problem, you can. That's perfectly appropriate. Anything that you might have coming up for you in the world, the fact that you're aware of it, if you're aware of it, that means it can then be solved. You can take the next step. But if you're unaware of it, how can you expect yourself to solve it? How can you even expect yourself to address it if you're not even consciously aware of its existence? You can't. This describes the way we run about in life. And lesson 24 tells us, quite simply, the text is, I do not perceive my own best interests. That we do not perceive our own best interests. Now, if we think about that, if we're honest with ourselves, and that's the aim not only of today's workbook lesson, but the entire course, is to be really honest with ourselves. In the world, we like to use the word brutally honest. And well, okay, if that works for you, great. You could also recast that and rephrase it as lovingly honest. Really, truly lovingly honest, not loving in the sense that you want to soften the blow and dance around the issue and make nice and sugarcoat everything. Now, how's that working out for you? Exactly. If it's not, then we have to shine the light on the darkness. Yeah. Nothing, nothing more or nor less than that is asked of us. And spiritual growth, spiritual transformation can happen very quickly in quick bursts. It can happen. And we'll talk more about this in the days, weeks, and months to come, what the Course calls the holy instant. That is simply a term for having one of those flash moments of being in direct communication with God, even if it only lasts for a fraction of a second here in Earth time. It's enough to fully and completely change a world. But we have to be honest with ourselves first and acknowledge that we don't perceive our best interests and that we indeed do have things backward. Because we do. I mean, that we don't perceive our own best interests is hardly arguable. Think of the circular reasoning that we use sometimes, and think of the ways that we try to make decisions and we get in our own way constantly in the process of making that decision. And the workbook tells us that we often have goals related to that decision that are exactly contradictory to another goal that we have related to the same decision. We want different things that are often in conflict with one another. Let's take, for example, let's say that you're watching this and you are single and you would love to be in a relationship. This is just an example. You want to find true love. Okay, well, there might be several different things that you want to have happen in conjunction with that. I want to get out more. I want to meet people in person. Or maybe because maybe you don't want to do it online. For example, you might want to get out. You may wish that you were more outgoing. You may wish that you were more shy. I don't know. Everybody's situation is different. You may wish that so and so that you have your eye on would approach you, right? Or you may wish that so and so would ask you out. Okay, that they wouldn't be so reserved or timid, or you wish that you would say something different than maybe you've said to this person. I don't know. We second guess ourselves all the time. This is just one example. Pick any example that you want. We don't clearly perceive our own best interests. Number one, we don't perceive that the way we're looking at things is even wrong. We just take it for granted. Actually, it is wrong. We're not separate. We're not. We're not separate. So this is very deeply honest. And honesty in this case, I would submit again that it's not brutal. It's not being brutally honest. It's being lovingly honest. And love shines light. What does it do? It shines light on things. It is light. That's exactly what it is light, love. It shines the light on the darkness and it just disappears. The darkness just goes away in the overwhelming presence of love, which is the strongest force that there is. And we just don't see it here in the world and in our daily lives. That's all. That's all. And an important thing to bear in mind is that it's not our fault that we perceive things incorrectly. It just is. This is part of our accepting that, okay, this is the situation. I have the power to change it. And you do. You do. Each of us has the power to change our perception. That is what this course is about. So, in the second paragraph here, the workbook says, if you realized that you did not perceive your own best interests, you could be taught what they are. But first, you must realize and acknowledge that. Otherwise, you can't be taught. In Buddhism, there's a concept called the three defects of the vessel that you may have heard of. And the vessel is like a pot, like an earthenware pot, let's say, or a clay pot, a receptacle of some sort, symbolizing the student, with the teacher pouring in to that. And the three defects of the vessel are, well, number one, if the lid is on top of the vessel, none of the liquid's going to get in. So if you know it all, how can you learn something? How can you unlearn everything you supposedly know? Yeah, if you've already been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, and you're applying that analogy to spirituality, and you're still having the same things come up over and over and over again, the same frustrations, yeah. If it doesn't feel like you're making any progress, maybe that's one reason why. All right, that's one of the defects of the vessel. The lid's closed. Okay, second, there's a hole in the vessel, so anything poured in leaks out. All right, this can take many forms. It can take the form of conceit. Maybe we've got the lid open, but we're not patching the holes because in Course in Miracles terminology, we want to keep certain forms of vindictive hatred. We want to forgive lots of people, but reserve our own blame and judgment for a couple or situations that we're unwilling to let go of. Those symbolize holes. The liquid leaks out of the vessel. And that's number two. And number three, there are the jar or the vessel is open. There's no lid on top. There are no holes. So everything that's poured in stays in. However, it's poisoned. And that's our mind. And that symbolizes our mind. A poisoned vessel is going to yield poisoned liquid when you pour it out. So either the lid's closed, or there is a hole in the vessel, or it's poisoned. That's, I think, a helpful teaching tool because it's for us to perform a reality check on ourselves. Are we acknowledging that we do not perceive our own best interests? If we honestly scan our thoughts and our mind, and we discover that no, indeed, we do not perceive our own best interests, then and only then can we be taught what that is in a given situation. Who will do that teaching for us? Well, the Holy Spirit, God, right? In Course terminology, the Holy Spirit, our teacher, will teach us, will show us exactly how to perceive our own best interests. And the example that I gave with someone looking for romantic love is just one example. But you can think of these if you scan your mind, and that's what the workbook exercises for today invite you to do. Do just that and take a step toward opening your mind. It's an opening. It's a real opening. And if you want to call it an awakening, it is very much a step in that direction. And the Holy Spirit says throughout the Course that just a small willingness is all that it needs to rush in and fill the situation with love. It's like flipping on a light in a dark room. Boom, it's not dark anymore. It's exactly what it is. First, we have to supply that willingness. And this workbook exercise will help with that. So if you've got questions or comments, we have plenty of time here today on the live stream. So let me bring up the comment thread and let me know what your thoughts, observations are, questions if you have any. I'm happy to take those right here. So hello, everyone that's joining me. Lisa, hello. Carol Ann, hello. Yeah, lovingly honest. Okay. I'm in love with that as well. Lovingly honest instead of brutally. It sounds better, doesn't it? Yeah. And let's see here. Yeah, if you've got additional questions, feel welcome to type them in here on the live stream. Now, if you're catching the replay, I will let you know that I do check the comments several times each day. So I will get back to you if you have specific questions. I'm here to be a resource for you. Hello, Cindy, how are you? I've got to say this, guys, happy birth month to Cindy, who was my first guest a couple of weeks ago here on the live stream. And as I was saying earlier, it's remarkable to see how this text, this beautiful spiritual text and practice transforms lives. I mean, this thing cuts right to the chase, which is what we really ultimately need. I mean, how many different things in spirituality have you tried? How many different manifestation techniques? How many different types of yoga, types of meditation? All of them are great in their own right, but the solution is inside. And we cannot, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again right now, we cannot find the solutions outside of ourselves. So the solution is not in a new partner at all. The solution is not in a new job or a fancier car or living in a fancier part of the city or something. Now, whatever it is, the solutions are all internal. It's completely an inside job. And we need exercises like today's. We need to, and we do need to, acknowledge and understand that, okay, running around here in the world, we do not perceive our own best interests. Pure and simple. And we just acknowledge that and practice the workbook exercise just as it states to do. And that's it. Yes. And I hope that as you go through this, that these lessons are resonating for you. The first time I went through this, the workbook, this is my third time all the way through, I had some experiences of wondering what exactly this really meant anyway. Some of these lessons seemed weird to me, and others made perfect sense. Now, the third time around, they're all making quite a bit more sense. And it's funny, though, because I can still see, and this would be true if you've been practicing this for 20 or 30 years, I imagine, as well. You can still see where the ego comes up and tries to get in our way and convince us that we know it all, closing the lid on the jar, right? Like the three defects of the vessel, or poisoning the vessel with hateful thoughts. Yeah, our egos love that. And honestly, this is a process of unmasking all of our thoughts that we've done to ourselves. And we are the author of this. We're the author of the problem, and we can choose to bring that problem to the light so it can be solved. Right? Ultimately, we ourselves don't do the solving. It's our willingness to bring these issues, call them problems, worldly preoccupations, whatever they are. It's our work to bring them to the light. Boom, the light switch flicks on, and we know ourselves. That's what we're going for. So thank you all for joining me here today. I will be live with Kim Cole's Eventer tomorrow. Now, tomorrow's live time is going to be the same. So 2 o'clock. No, actually, scratch that. Check the show guide. Forget I said that. Yeah, I've got my calendar. I keep a paper calendar with me. I'm one of those people that has that to go along with my digital calendar so I don't get confused. And I'm looking at April, not late February. So scratch that. Check the show guide for details tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to hearing from Kim. And thank you so much for joining me here today. Catch me on the comments with questions. And thanks so much for tuning in.